Right now in the world of sports, the NBA are having their playoffs and so are the NHL players. And so there's a lot of emotions that are involved, especially if your team is playing. When your team wins, you're on an emotional high, and when they lose, you're on a big downer. It's interesting how emotionally involved we get in sports. I remember Friar Stephen, God rest him, once said, we should be as enthusiastic about our faith as we are about our sports. And even in soccer, the fans get just absolutely crazy. They get so emotionally involved in the game. The Ascension likely is not the most exciting celebration for us as Christian people. Christmas, Easter, and Pentecost are likely the three big ones. Ascension is such a beautiful gift to us because it reveals to us that we have a friend in heaven as well as a friend on earth. That is to say, Jesus Christ, who journeys with us to bring heaven with us and unites us with heaven here on earth. So it's not that we go to heaven or we try to place our minds and our hearts up towards heaven, but to recognize that heaven is present here with us today. Now, it's interesting that this message that Jesus gives the disciples is to go and proclaim the good news to all of creation in our gospel reading. Now, Jesus is going to depart from them, and yet there's a good news message. So the good news message is that Jesus is victorious over all sin, over death, over despair, over anything that's not good for us. Jesus is victorious. In other words, as Christian people, we celebrate and we have great joy that love will win in the end. And if we're not quite at the end, it's because love hasn't quite fully won yet. But we place our hope, we place our trust in this. Now, in the gospel reading, Jesus also says that the disciples will be picking up, deadly snakes and drinking deadly drinks. Now, what he's really saying is he's repeating what he has said before, that life is going to bring us challenges. To be a disciple of Christ is not to say that we're not going to have any problems and we're not going to have any challenges, but we have the ability to face these. Just like Jesus, we continuously place our trust in our Trinitarian God that pours love and grace into our hearts, that is present with us, that journeys with us, and that we're not alone. And this is a good news message. Why would we not want to share this with other people? This is a good news message of God's unconditional love expressed through the death and resurrection of Jesus. Now, in our first reading from the Acts of the Apostles, the Acts of the Apostles actually could be the Acts of the Holy Spirit, because, Luke wrote his gospel about the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, and the Acts of the Apostles is a continuation, ultimately, of the Acts of the Holy Spirit. And this ought to bring us great joy. In other words, that the Spirit will act in us and through us. I can't help but emphasize that. I know you probably heard me repeat this over and over again. And so we see how, that Spirit that descended upon Mary during the conception of Jesus is also going to give birth to the church. The disciples and ourselves are going to continue the ministry of Jesus, and we're going to do it by two things. The first thing is by preaching, by sharing with others, and probably better to preach with our actions than with our words, except with these YouTube videos. And then we're also going to bring about God's healing. Now, sometimes God's healing is more about encouragement than about somebody experiencing the fullness of healing. And so, as Jesus, as that second reading from Ephesians points out, is we come to know God. We come to the knowledge of God through the person of Jesus. In other words, we not only intellectually know about God through Jesus, but we know that we will experience Jesus because we have a friend on earth as well as a friend in heaven. And so as we gather around the table, Lord, we ought to be as enthusiastic as the fans who win a game or who win a series or who win the big championship, because this is a great gift that God gives to us to strengthen us to face the challenge which we have to face, and to bring good news to others, especially those who are in need.